What's good, YouTube? Welcome back to the Stock Hustle channel with your boy William. Today is September 22nd, Wednesday. And as you guys see from the indices chart where we normally start, today is a heavy green day. And it's shocking too because Papa Powell, or Jerome Powell, the Fed chair, did actually give a speech today and answer some questions from the media in relation to inflation, interest rates, and tapering, right? The three big boogeyman of the stock market that usually spooks investors. But nonetheless, as you guys see, even though he did speak and even though he did come out and give a pretty good speech, he still didn't set turmoil in the market, which is always a positive sign, right? It's a good sign leading into tomorrow because, again, tomorrow is essentially the day where Evergrande will be decided, or fates will be decided, essentially. But there's a lot of hype around tomorrow for Evergrande and the whole China thing, which I talked about in yesterday's video and a couple videos others, but we're not going to focus on that today. As I had mentioned to you guys in my channel, again, I appreciate each and every one of you guys that view it, that like it, comment, or subscribe to it. And if you haven't done so already, so you don't miss another video, please do subscribe because it does help with the channel's growth. I mean that sincerely. But someone had left a comment asking about two specific plays. So I had already mentioned to you guys previously in other videos that if you ever guys wanted to see something or wanted me to review something, I'd be more than happy to. So today's video is specifically just for that. The two plays in question were Mara and RIOT. If you've never heard of those two companies, you're going to find out all about them today. Essentially what Mara and RIOT are Bitcoin miners. So essentially these two companies mine Bitcoins, right? And as you guys already know from the cryptocurrency market, it's something that's really explosive. Bitcoin has gone up to skyrocket prices of $60,000 this year, just in this year alone. It's had some massive dips, and with those dips, these two specific miners have also paid the price for that consequence. As you guys can see from the chart, this is Mara right here, and this is a one-day chart on traditional candles. I did go ahead and plot out the lines of support and resistance. As you guys see, currently we are sitting at essentially a line of support here in the 3406 with essentially this negative channel pointing down, right? Or what it seems like, right? Could potentially signify a reversal. I'll get to that more in a minute. But essentially what you need to remember when you're participating in plays like this specifically is that they are going to mirror specifically what Bitcoin does. So anything they do, you're going to base it off what Bitcoin is doing, right? Because again, as Bitcoin prices skyrocket more and more and more, obviously there will be more demand for Bitcoin miners because they're mining the Bitcoin. How can I confirm that? Well, check it out. So we have a spike right here at 57.75 essentially for April down here, which we can see or verify with the date. If we go pull a chart specifically for Bitcoin, I already took the liberty of doing that with my Webull to segregate the two. We can look at April and we can see clearly that our spike in April was 64,900 a Bitcoin. Again, that came around, what is that? April 14th. So going back and looking, April 5th to 14th is where you see this massive spike in Mara for this one specifically, right? As I mentioned to you guys, when I hunt trends, I like to hunt them with Hinki Ashi. So I did take the liberty of taking a screenshot of Mara with Hinki Ashi as well to kind of give you a better distinction of why it's so important to not only study the charts but also change up how you research charts and how you look at things, because again, you don't want to look at it from just one side. You want to look at it from all angles so you form a better opinion. Now looking at it under Hinki Ashi, which again is just a Japanese word for average bar. So the candles are giving you the daily average for each individual candle. Again, this is a day chart, so each candle on the chart represents a day. Now we can clearly see better trends. You see this downtrend here, downtrend here, downtrend here, so forth, right? As clearly visible with all the red candles stacked, right? However, you need to also pay attention to our indicators, which we also talked about in previous videos, which specifically my favorite is RSI and MACD, right? So let's look at the RSI for Mara. We are below neutral, pointing on an upward direction, right, at 49. Our MACD is in a selling period with a downtrend coming. Now, let's take a look at Bitcoin because you need to compare it to Bitcoin. What is Bitcoin doing currently? It's sitting at a point of resistance, formulating a green candle It just came off this run up where now it's looking like it's on a downward channel. However, today, as you see from this chart, there is a huge green candle here. Essentially, Bitcoin opened today at 41,700, and it essentially is going to close at 43,900. I believe that's the price. Let me pull this back. 43,600, excuse me. So it's on an upward trend. Potentially this could signify a reversal. Tying it into what happened today in the Fed chair's speech, since they're not going to be starting tapering, they're not going to be raising interest rates, and they have a plan in place for how they're going to implement that. Obviously, the market didn't have a negative effect. Again, how can we confirm that? Well, we can pull our indices chart and we can clearly see, for the most part, the stock market has a positive sentiment. Now, when would be a good position to enter into specifically Mara? Well, if I'm looking at this and this is something I would be interested in being a player in, sitting at a line of support is a good thing for me, because again, now that we formed this green candle in the Hinkiyashi chart, this could signify a reversal to the upside. How can we confirm that? As always, go into my favorite tool, Unusual Whales. What's the first thing you check? You check for the inflow and outflow of money. Where is money going? Well, if we're looking at this in general, you see there is $10 million essentially invested into calls versus $5 million on puts. Looking at the size of these calls, you have 1.3 million, 1.1 million, 565,000. Look at the strike dates. December of this year, April, December, January. So there's a positive outlook. The options chain, essentially what it's telling you, there is a positive outlook towards the end of this year for this specific play in Mara, a Bitcoin miner, which should tell you two things. If you hold Bitcoin, you can expect this to start to run up. Obviously, this kind of money going into an option for a Bitcoin miner, that should automatically tell you in the back of your mind, okay, so then they're anticipating Bitcoin's going to go up. Why? Because again, we've seen the reflection in the charts that when Bitcoin spikes, Mara spikes. So that's a little bit of Mara, right? Let's go into another one. The second request was RIOT, which I also took some screenshots so that we can better formulate an opinion. This is RIOT, as you guys can see from the top left corner on my TOS. Again, 1 day chart on regular candles, formulated lines of resistance as support. You see that RIOT is also sitting at a line of support here at the $22.79 mark, essentially formulating a candle right on that line of support. Let's take a look at the RSI. We are essentially sitting at oversold. So that's a positive sign for a run up as well, because again, you always want to start or open a position when the RSI is down and oversold. Why? Because it's always going to lead you to overbought. And looking at the MACD, we are currently in a selling period, potentially converging, giving us even more positive sentiment into a run up. Now, let's compare it to Bitcoin to see what it did versus Bitcoin. Again, you're going to see some similarities, as I already did from the chart. The spike was in April. We can go over here and we can see that it had its spike. April is essentially here. Here is a secondary spike. Its primary spike was at 79.50, and this occurred in February, early February. So let's take a look at Bitcoin in early February. Early February, this one, now we see some distinctions. In early February, which starts here and ends here, Bitcoin was going essentially through this channel up, which again coincides with what you see in RIOT having its spike at 79.50 here. Obviously, with RIOT, you see a little bit more distinction or separation in the candles. So how do we fix that? As I've already stated, we switch our charts and take a look at it under a different microscope, being specifically Hinkiyashi. Now, leaving all the markings from the previous chart, you can still see some similarities. The RSI is still pointing upward, as this didn't change. The MACD is still in a selling period. The spike is still in February, but now look at these downtrends. You see this massive downtrend, massive downtrend, massive downtrend. So this stock was pushed down. But what dates? From April essentially to May. So let's go look at the chart in Bitcoin and see if we can see some similarities. So April starting here to May ending here. What do you see? Essentially a drop down, a drop down. That again is now a confirmation. Bitcoin and RIOT also do the same similar setup. Not as much as Mara, but it does, and it is similarly affected by what Bitcoin does. Again, now that we understand Bitcoin could potentially have a nice run up towards the end of the year, take a look at this. We just did and completed a slide down essentially in RIOT, specifically again landing on the area of support, which gives us confirmation or potential that this could potentially shoot up. How can we verify that? Going again to my favorite tool, unusual whales. Now let's take a look at RIOT. So looking at RIOT, again, all my settings on the table are already preset, $25,000 premium or more. Specific strike dates now through the end of next year, early next year. What do we see? Once again, these huge calls. 1.1 million for December 17th, 1.1 million December 17th. January 2021, $1 million on a call. Another one, 645,000 January 2021. This is a sold put, which is also bullish, as you can see clearly from the indicator flag. Another 600,000. If we're looking at it overall consensus, this one has a little less money than Mara. This one has 4.9 million on the call side versus 2.7 million on the put side. Looking at the breakdown by strikes and by money, what is the number one strike date that they are targeting that we can clearly see? It's this, the January 2021 or 2022 strike date specifically. You have a little bit here on the October 15th, but mainly it's this January strike date and later in the year. Now, at what prices? That's a good question. So looking at the chart, 25 has a spike, 35, 40, and 60. You could even potentially say 85. Now again, you may say, well, how do you know that? Well, look at the amounts of money, 200 million, 300 million, 400 million. Specifically on this strike date, the biggest one, you're almost $700 million bet that RIOT will hit $25 or more. Well, what's it sitting at today? Today we're sitting at essentially 28.73, which already puts us above that, right? Which again should give you even further confirmation that this is anticipated to run up. And this is how you use all your tools to formulate conviction in a play. Again, as I mentioned from the start of the video, I have no skin in the game in RIOT and Mara. I've looked at them before because I wanted to give myself a little bit more exposure to cryptocurrencies. And that's not necessarily something I've dived into yet, but I do plan on getting my feet wet essentially and jumping into the cryptocurrencies. Another one that I plan to review, and I'll probably do this either this weekend on this weekend's video, is going to be Cardano. That is a play that I'm heavily bullish on, and I'll give my conviction in that video as well for this weekend. To kind of close out the video, we're going to close out with everybody's favorite. Instead of giving it right in the beginning, I want to give it to you guys at the end with AMC, just to kind of take a look at the chart, because again, I know that is something I am heavily convicted in and something that very does much matter to me. So looking at this chart, again guys, as you did see, we are currently in this downtrend in AMC. We did have this nice beautiful green candle that formulated today, pushing us up to the upside right at our line of support, again here at the $40.14, looking at a one-day chart. What I wanted to show you guys was the Hinki-Ashi chart, because it gave me a little bit more conviction and confidence in this play. As you see, we are in this downward channel. So essentially what has to happen, number one, our RSI is curving upward. As you guys can see, we are in a selling period on our MACD. However, the fact that the Fed came out and said we're not raising rates, we have a plan for tapering, it will start in November, and they're planning on increasing rates sometime in late 2022, should tell you automatically that blue skies are ahead for the market, which means that this sentiment we see here of all green is going to continue, because there's no fear from the Fed on that sense. So again, it should be a positive outlook. Again, you guys can choose to look at things in whatever way you want. I'm an optimist, as you can clearly tell from my videos. I like to look at things as the glass half full kind of guy. But again, it takes practice, it takes time. I know not everybody can think the same. You can't have that either. You have to have differentiating opinions to get better analysis on stocks and specific plays. But again, you have control in how you choose to see things. You can look at this chart and just be down in the dumps, mad, upset, sad, and do exactly what the hedgies want you to do, right? Because that's what the hedge funds want. Let's be real. They're adding to these short positions, bringing this price down to affect your psychology. Why? Because it frustrates you and gets you to the point of stress where you're like, fuck this, and I'm out. And you sell. And you'll settle for a gain essentially from this run up of $13 to essentially where we are now at 40. When potentially you are leaving thousands, if not more, on the table in the potential that this play has. Because again, all you have to do is just do your analysis, study your charts, and focus on the facts, which again, the facts are there are 95.9 million short shares at the minimum on this play, as well as some of the other plays we've covered, because again, we've added to our portfolio, we've added to our opportunities and to our potential. But when you look at things, that's how you need to look at things, with a positive outlook, not a negative down in the dumps outlook, because that doesn't help anyone. That's never going to help you get or accomplish what you want to accomplish. I am a true believer. Winning is a choice, because you have the choice to either give up and quit, or keep trying, keep fighting, and keep learning, keep growing. You have the choice in that. It's not just black and white. You win or you lose. You have a say in it, and you have the control of it if you so choose to. But you have to have, or you have to want that choice, and you have to want to go after it, right? But again, I think you guys get the point. I'm not going to harp on it. As always, guys, if you like the content and appreciate the video, please leave it a like and a comment down below. As always, please subscribe to the channel, because it does help. And I will catch you guys in the next one.